So what modalities would be available to test for this food allergy? So skin test, relatively inexpensive, have a very good negative predictive value. The positive predictive value is about 50%, so you have to be cautious when evaluating positive food skin tests. The positive predictive value for aeroallergens is much higher, just so you know. But now there are exceptions. When the skin test is large, in general greater than 7 millimeters, it does have a 95% positive predictive value. So it doesn't mean that the child's actually more allergic or will have a more severe reaction, but it's just more likely that that skin test is a true positive. If you look at the immunocap, it's about $29 per test. And there are some cutoffs for interpretation, but it can be a little challenging to interpret these tests. So you might recognize this from your lab. This is the good old class system. And so they'll say class 1 is less than whatever, and class 2 is between this and this, and it tells you absolutely nothing. So let's just, this is what most practitioners have to go on. Let's just pose a question to you here. So which of these patients would be most likely to have a positive food challenge, so to truly be allergic to this food? So you have a 3-year-old with an immunocap of 7 to cow's milk, a 4-year-old with an immunocap of 39 to wheat, a 2-year-old with a 1.97 to egg, and a 2-year-old with a 4.0 to peanut. Just yell it out. What do you think?
D.
I heard a D, I heard a B. Anything else? The answer is actually C, the lowest one. So that class system wasn't useful at all in this situation. Here, I'll show you why. Each antigen has its own cutoff values. So the problem with that class system is you apply the same cutoff values to each and every antigen, but every one is unique. So milk, for example, the 95 negative predictive value is 0.8, but the 95 positive predictive value is 15, and that's for children over the age of 2. Less than 2, in general, you can divide it by 3, so it'd be 5. In egg, it's 2, and that's why that was positive, right? So that child was right at the 95% cutoff value, positive predictive value, and that's why that was positive. Look at some of these other antigens. 15 for peanut, and so in general it'd be 5 for children less than 2. Soy, only 50% positive predictive value at 65. Wheat, 75 positive predictive value at greater than 100. So there's some broad ranges here, and you can see why it's misleading. Well, can't go back.
We need INRs for them, don't we?
What would that
be? Coumadin.
Yeah.
I mean, what it should be versus what gets you in trouble. Just
yeah.
The lab figures it out and tells you what number you need to check.
And I'm not sure why this data hasn't trickled down to the lab tests. I don't know if the study needs to be redone or something with the FDA approval process. That's my guess. But here's what that looks like pictorially. So you can see the curve, and this has been looked at both retrospectively and prospectively. And so you have the probability of disease on the left, and then the values. The problem here, and the reason why that maybe immunocap doesn't give you much additional value than skin testing, is that in the extremes, immunocap is valuable. So right here, you're changing your decision, and right here, this can change your clinical decision. But most of the time, you end up in no man's land right here, where it really is not powerful enough to change your clinical decision. And if you think about it, a skin test, if it's negative, you're here. If it's positive at all, you're here. If it's very large, you're here. So you get the same data at a fraction of the cost. And here's the value for cow's milk. So what do you do when you're in no man's land on the skin testing?